Good afternoon. So I want to do this video about a topic, again, that's been on my mind a lot. And I want to preface this by saying, when it comes to spirituality, anyone could be spiritual. Anyone could be spiritually inclined. Anyone could have a connection to the divine and, have a relationship with God or any higher power. Anything spiritual, virtually anyone is capable of it. It's just a matter of if you believe and if you have the will to. If you don't, look, man, I'm not here to judge. We're all on our separate path, and I'm not one to push spirituality on anyone, but I digress. What I want to say is, I'm a very, I want to say, spiritually gluttonous person. Like, I'll read everything, especially the Bible, but man, I've read the Bhagavad Gita, parts of the Quran, the Tao Te Ching, the Corpus Hermeticum. Like, anything spiritual, like, I want to know about it. And I want to be able to put it all together. And in my studies, and particular with my reading of the Bible, which at this point, it was always the ambition of mine to, know my Bible very well and read the whole Bible. And, so I think I want to consider myself well-versed in the Bible. One thing I've noticed in biblical stories and biblical canon, and even, stories outside the accepted biblical canon, or especially outside the biblical canon, I've noticed a lot of the characters and ideas are very neurodivergent coded. Like, when I really, really, really look at the behavior of these individuals, and it makes sense. It makes sense that these characters, these heroes in the Bible that are kind of set apart and chosen by God, have these particular set of traits and quirks that kind of make them not of this world, Like, okay, let's start with Moses, right? Moses is interesting. Moses, he's sent away to avoid the genocide of Jews by Pharaoh, and he actually ends up being raised in Egyptian royalty. But see, Moses is, if you just look at his actions, he's very odd. Like, when he's about 40 years old and he goes out among his people and he sees them being treated wrong, his first reaction is to fly into a rage and kill an Egyptian who's mistreating a Jew. Very impulsive act of rage. And this is one of God's chosen ones, his prophet, his mouthpiece, his representative on earth. And Moses has a lot of, impulsive flare-ups like this. And there's other characteristics of Moses where he's kind of socially has these almost, I don't want to say disabilities, but to put it mildly, quirks. Like, after he spends a lot of time working as a shepherd and God handpicks him, he says, I'm very slow of speech, implying he has some kind of speech impediment or stutter or something of that kind, which also leads me to think he's neurodivergent. But he just has these very out of control moments of impulsivity and rage, and it just leads me to think he's either or both, not either or, but maybe both, on the spectrum and has ADHD. So let's push forward. We got Jesus, who, let's say if anyone's familiar with, you know, children, how children act when they're on the spectrum, especially the high functioning ones, that's somewhat of a problematic moniker, but for the sake of just you understand what I'm saying, I'll say high functioning. Jesus was a weird kid. He was a weird kid. When his parents go into Jerusalem to pay their taxes, which they do annually, the Israelites, he wanders off, and they think he's missing and assume the worst. They catch this little boy in the temple, info dumping Torah, which he knows back and forth at 12 years old, with, like, imagine a little kid discussing Torah with Jewish scribes and teachers, like scholars. He knows the Torah back and forth at 12. He wants, like, it's just giving some ADHD, but very much on the spectrum, like. And you know, it's just, when you examine Jesus's behavior, like during his ministry, it's just odd. It's like, Jesus, we caught this woman in an act of adultery. The law says we should stone her. What do you think? He just gets on the ground and starts, like, drawing shit in the dirt. Like, he doesn't even care what they're talking about. He's like, Or you could even interpret that the way I interpret it, as he was doing that to get his thoughts together, stimming. And then he's like, yeah, the law says stoner. Who be without sin, cast the first stone. Like, it's almost like this physical, weird, quirky activity kind of helped him gather his thoughts and be like, yeah, you could stone her, but just whoever is without sin, you could cast the first stone. And I'm just like, yo, Jesus is ill. Listen, man, I'm not religious, but I'm a follower of Christ. I like to consider myself a follower of Christ. That's the illest dude ever. He is. He just is. He's him for real. Literally and figuratively, he's him. So, and you just see this throughout the Bible. Like, Samson is obviously ADHD. It's like textbook. No impulse control, stimulation seeking, sensation seeking. I want to fight. I want to have sex. I want to do this. I want to do that. Samson had no self-control at all. Textbook ADHD. Even as far as say, is he probably had antisocial personality disorder. And this is a whole nother topic for another day. I think every personality disorder is linked to neurodivergence. I just do. But I'll do that in another video. You got the Apostle Peter. Who Jesus designates as his rock. You know, the cornerstone of what's going to be the church. Also textbook ADHD. Peter's always speaking up first. He always has to. He's hyperverbal. That's what you call when someone just has to talk. Hyperverbal. Impulsive as hell. They come to arrest Jesus before the crucifixion. He cuts the high priest's servant's ear off. I guess that's what the kids today would call a crash out. Peter was a crash out, a biblical crash out. But ride or die though, like in a good way. Like, but ADHD coded. He sees Jesus walking on the water. He's like, Jesus, I want to walk on the water too. Like, just mad excited all the time. Like, very little emotional regulation. Very impulsive. Very sensation seeking. Just has to talk. Like, everything, impulse. But as far this, and these are just examples all from the Bible. You could look at the life of Buddha, Krishna. Like, all these people are just what sets them apart, aside from the fact that they're divinely connected, is their quirkiness. That the fact that they're not the normal person, like. And I think at the very least, as a neurodivergent person, you could look at these stories and relate. And I mean, I just think when you look at spiritually inclined people, prophets, priests, monks, oracles, seers, mystics, witches, shamans, they're always people, like, even if they're part of a community, they kind of have to be, like, off to have their own space. Like, the shaman, he kind of has his own, you know, the court wizard, he kind of, you know, he kind of stays over there and comes out when the royal court needs him. The witches, they kind of live in the woods, and people go to them discreetly when they need to. Like, you can tell there's this social isolation, or maybe that's a strong term, but introvertedness that always characterizes those sort of people. Like the monks, they're like up somewhere that's secluded, where they have their privacy and it's quiet, and they don't get too much stimulation. They could have stillness. And, you know, that's recurrent. Like, look at stories of Merlin, bro. Look the way Merlin is portrayed in contemporary media. Just a very quirky weirdo. And I don't use weirdo in a pejorative sense. I'm a proud weirdo. You know, I take complete pride in it. I don't want to be like everyone else. And I think that's what has allowed me to really connect with the divine, with the spiritual realm in my life. All these, what enables me to have a dream and, you know, be able to interpret it and connect it to what's going on in my life and see the spiritual implications, and read these spiritual texts and scriptures and feel connected to it and be able to understand it on an intuitive level. I directly attribute that to my neurodivergent. I'm gonna start calling it neurosexy. On TikTok they call it neurospicy. I'm gonna start calling it neurosexy, like kick it up a notch. But yeah, I just want to throw that out there. And again, if you watch this video all the way through, I appreciate you. I love you. Keep watching, subscribe, like, comment. You know, really tell me what you think, because I want this to be a dialogue. I need y'all to, like, you know, say something to me, so I don't just feel like I'm a madman. I know people like to listen to me talk. Like, that's one of my gifts. You know, running my damn mouth, that's one of my gifts. But I want to hear from y'all too. I want to hear y'all opinions. Like, you know, at the very least, validate me. Give me that validation. But, you know, it's your boy, yours all. Peace out.